was in my mid-30s, around 2010, I had an experience that still chills me to the bone whenever I think about it. It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend getaway, a chance to unwind and escape the hustle and bustle of city life. My friends and I had booked a cabin deep in the woods, a place called Pinewood Retreat. The cabin was nestled among towering pines, with a small serene lake nearby. The reviews were glowing. People raved about the tranquility, the beauty of the surroundings, and the comfort of the cabin. It seemed like the perfect place to recharge. We arrived on a crisp Friday evening, in late autumn, just as the sun was beginning to set. The drive had been long, and the winding roads through the forest were a bit unsettling, but we were all in high spirits. The cabin itself was charming, rustic, with a stone fireplace and large windows that offered a stunning view of the lake. The air was cool, and the smell of pine and earth was invigorating. The first night was uneventful. We cooked dinner, had a few drinks, and shared stories around the fireplace. The only strange thing was the silence outside. In the city, you're always surrounded by noise, cars, people, sirens. But here, it was eerily quiet. No rustling leaves, no animals, just an oppressive stillness. We shrugged it off, attributing it to the dense forest around us. The next day, we decided to explore the area. There were a few hiking trails nearby, and the weather was perfect for a walk. As we were getting ready to leave, I noticed something odd, a wooden box on the mantel that none of us remembered seeing the night before. It was small, intricately carved, and looked old. Curious, I opened it. Inside was a bundle of yellowed, brittle letters, tied with a faded red ribbon. The letters looked ancient, and the handwriting was spidery, difficult to read. There was something unsettling about them, a sense of sadness and loss that I couldn't quite put my finger on. We didn't dwell on it, though. We were here to relax, not dig into the past. So we left the cabin and spent the day hiking, enjoying the outdoors. By the time we got back, the sun was already setting, casting long shadows across the lake. That night, things took a turn for the strange. It started with small things, lights flickering, doors creaking open on their own, and an odd, cold draft that seemed to come from nowhere. We joked about the cabin being haunted, but there was a nervous edge to our laughter. Around midnight, as we were settling in to sleep, we heard it, a soft, rhythmic knocking, coming from somewhere inside the cabin. It wasn't loud, but in the silence of the night, it was unmistakable. We all heard it. At first, we thought it was just the old wood of the cabin settling, but the knocking continued, steady and deliberate. We tried to locate the source, but no matter where we went, it always seemed to be coming from just behind us. It was unnerving, to say the least. Eventually, the knocking stopped, and we went to bed, though none of us slept well. The next morning, I woke up feeling uneasy, like something was watching us. My friends felt it too, a growing sense of dread that hung over the cabin. We tried to carry on as usual, but the atmosphere had changed. The cabin, which had seemed so cozy and inviting just a day before, now felt oppressive, almost malevolent. That afternoon, one of my friends, Emma, mentioned that she had seen something in the night. She hadn't wanted to say anything at the time, but around 3 a.m., she had woken up and looked out the window. Standing by the edge of the lake was a figure, pale and gaunt, with long dark hair hanging over its face. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, just stood there, staring at the cabin. She watched it for what felt like hours before it slowly turned and disappeared into the woods. We were all on edge after that, and the decision was made to leave the next morning. None of us wanted to stay another night in that place. That evening, as we were packing up, I noticed that the box with the letters was gone. I asked my friends if they had moved it, but no one had touched it. It was just gone, as if it had never been there. That night, the knocking started again, louder this time, more insistent. We huddled together in the living room, too scared to move. The lights flickered, the temperature dropped, and the air was thick with tension. Then we heard it, a voice, faint and distant, calling out from the woods. It was a woman's voice, soft and pleading, but there was something wrong with it, something that sent chills down my spine. It was like she was calling for help, but the words were distorted, like they were being pulled through water. We didn't sleep that night. As soon as dawn broke, we packed up and left, not bothering to clean up or lock the doors. We just wanted to get as far away from that place as possible.
On the drive back, we tried to make sense of what had happened, but there was no logical explanation. It wasn't until a few weeks later that I did some research on Pinewood Retreat. I discovered that in the early 1900s, a young woman had drowned in the lake under mysterious circumstances. She had been staying at the cabin with her fiancé, but after her death, he disappeared, leaving behind only a note saying he couldn't bear to live without her. The letters we found, I realized, must have belonged to her. I've never been back to Pinewood Retreat, and I don't plan to. Some places are just wrong. There's a darkness there, something that lingers, waiting for the next unsuspecting visitor. And to this day, I can't shake the feeling that whatever it was that haunted that cabin is still out there, watching, waiting.